Okay, there's gotta be something I can do with my voice. There's got to be something I can do with my voice. I can do accents, but my normal sounding voice does not sound quite as well. The self cannot be self without other selves. Hate begets hate. Violence begets violence. The past is strewn. The past is strewn with the ruins of the empires of tyranny. If I had an accent, that would make everything better. The past is strewn with the ruins of the empires of tyranny, and each is a monument not merely to man's blunders, but to his capacity to overcome them. We must meet the forces of hate with the power of love. That was Martin Luther King Jr. That's what he sounded like, in case you were wondering. There is within human nature an amazing potential for goodness. It may well be that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition is not the glaring noisiness of the so-called bad people, but the appalling silence of the so-called good people. The important thing about a man is not the color of his skin, or the texture of his hair, or the texture and quality of his soul. The ultimate measure of a man is not The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. It is hardly a moral act to encourage others patiently to accept injustice which he himself does not endow. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We must come to see that the human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. We must use time creatively, and forever realize that the time is always ripe to do right. I must admit that I was initially disappointed in being so categorized as an extremist. But as I continued to think about the matter, I gradually gained a bit of satisfaction from being considered an extremist. Was not Abraham Lincoln an extremist? This nation cannot survive half slave and half free. Was not Thomas Jefferson an extremist? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists will we be? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice? Or will we be extremists for the cause of justice? But we must come to see that peace is not merely the absence of some negative force, it is the presence of a positive force. True peace is not merely the absence of tension, but it is the presence of justice and brotherhood. I am speaking from way low. Maybe this is my natural voice. But we simply cannot have peace in the world without mutual respect. Here is the true meaning and value of compassion and nonviolence when it helps us to see the enemy's point of view, to hear his questions, to know his assessment of ourselves. For from his view we may indeed see the basic weaknesses of our own condition. And if we are mature, we may learn and grow and profit from the wisdom of the brothers who are called the opposition. What? Life and history give eloquent testimony to the fact that conflicts are never resolved without trustful give and take on both sides. We can no longer afford to worship the god of hate or bow before the altar of retaliation. Man, these are some good quotes. Somehow we must be able to stand up before our most bitter opponents and say, we shall match your capacity to inflict suffering by our capacity to endure suffering. We will meet your physical force with soul force. To do to us what you will, and we will still love you. But be assured that we'll wear you down by our capacity to suffer. And one day we will win our freedom. we will not only win freedom for ourselves, we will so appeal to your heart and conscience that we will win you in the process, and our victory will be a double victory. Holla back. If I hit you and you hit me, and I hit you back and you hit me back, and go on, you see that goes on ad infinitum. It just never ends. Somewhere somebody must have a little sense, and that's the strong person. The strong person is the person who can cut off the chain of hate and the chain of evil. To believe in nonviolence does not mean that violence will not be inflicted upon you. The believer in nonviolence is the person who will willingly allow himself to be the victim of violence, but he will never inflict it upon another. He lives by the conviction that through his suffering and cross-bearing the social situation may be redeemed. People are often surprised to learn that I am an optimist. They know how often I've been jailed, how frequently the days and nights have been filled with frustration and sorrow, how bitter and dangerous are my adversaries. They expect these experiences to harden me into a grim and desperate man. They fail, however, to perceive the sense of affirmation generated by the challenge of embracing struggle and surmounting obstacles. We must never lose hope, infinite hope. That is not what it says. We must never lose infinite hope. There is nothing wrong with the power if power is used correctly. And one of the greatest problems of history is that the concepts of love and power have usually been contrasted as opposites, polar opposites, so that love is identified with the resignation of power and power with the denial of love. Now, power properly understood is nothing but the ability to achieve purpose. It is the strength required to bring about social, political, and economic change. What is needed is the realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. Saliva. True altruism is more than the capacity to pity. It's the capacity to sympathize. Pity may represent little more than the impersonal conservative promise the mailing of a check. But true sympathy is the personal conservative demands the giving of one's soul. If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Woo! We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power of love. It's not merely an emotional something. Love is creative, understanding goodwill for all men. It is the refusal to defeat any individual. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that. Hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illumines it. Man has the capacity to do right as well as wrong, and his history's path upward, not down. So what does my normal voice sound like? Courage faces fear and thereby masters it. Cowardice represses fear and is thereby mastered by it. Courageous men never lose the zest for living even though their life situation is justice. Cowardly men, overwhelmed by the uncertainties of life, lose the will to live. Almost done. There is a maxim in the law. Justice too long delayed is justice denied. Every man lives in two realms, the internal and the external. The internal is that realm of spiritual ends expressed in art, literature, morals, and religion. The external is that complex of devices, techniques, mechanisms, and instrumentalities by means of which we live. Our problem today is that we have allowed the internal to become lost in the external. We have allowed the means by which we live to outdistance the ends for which we live. What? We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. If we assume that life is worth living, if we assume that mankind has a right to survive, we must find an alternative to war. No individual can live alone. No nation can live alone. And as long as we try, the more we are going to have war in this world. One does not need to be a profound scholar to be open-minded, nor a keen Academic, oh my gosh, screw that one. I did this last time. I can't read that word. I can't read that word. I can't read that word. The potential beauty of human life is constantly made ugly by man's ever-recurring song of retaliation. Wisdom born of experience should tell us that war is obsolete. It is no longer a choice between violence and non-violence in this world. It's non-violence or non-existence. Martin Luther King Jr.